there's one more person we're expecting. And I am so very glad that all these people are so intelligent and they have experience in being recorded, because we already got into this big conversation. When Jason entered the screen, he's like, oh, it sounds like the show has started. It was because I just asked really a question that I'm 2.5 years into this. It's like, why do I not know the general term for the person who is called when someone is feeling the dominoes tumbling in aging challenges, when someone is to a point of they can't handle the next thing that's going to happen in caregiving because they're not informed. They don't have, if you've got your kind of a handle on something, it's like, I should expect this to happen next, or maybe within a year. And it's like, okay, it's hard to hear all these different things I'm suddenly going to become a specialist in. But also, no one ever says, wow, I sure regret being so well prepared for that crisis. So, yay, Bill is in.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, how much do you know Jason? I mean, we're talking, you've exchanged information on families, or I admire what you do. Where are you two at?
We've had a variety of calls. We've been in person at a few conferences, and we're seated at group dinners at those conferences, and yeah, we're part of a couple of similar groups. So the HTech Collaborative from AARP we're both part of, and so we see each other regularly at those events, and we're both partners with the State of New York Department of Aging Services, so we see each other at those events. And I know his partner in Discover Live as well, fairly well. So I'd say, yeah, we're all right. How about it, Jay?
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Oh, I noticed on one of your things that you go by Jay, and I was like, is that J-A and then middle name that begins with Y, or do you just go by Jay sometimes?
Formally, like I people call me Jason, but like for the people who knows me, they just call me like Jay. So you can call me any one of those names.
Oh, fantastic. And so we've got Amelia up above. She's got something that makes me think of honey behind her, because, it looks like...
That's kind of looks like a honeycomb, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like that. And so I'm just going to jump right in. Amelia, introduce yourself to Josephine, Bill, and Jason, and me, because I've not been on anything with any of you before, but of course I've admired from a distance. And I just said to you, what is the general term to describe a person? Last week's episode was actually a recording done live. I was sitting in the audience of a live, and these people gathered together because I asked them to, and they just did it. And so Bill Cohen in Portland, Oregon, I said, what is the general term for a person that someone calls and goes, I'm a perfectly logical, sensible, educated human being, but things are happening, and it's like no one's ever aged before. No one's ever hit these things before. Is there a place that I should start? Is there a first question I should do? Is there, help me, And I used to be really good at being in charge of things, but this one's just hitting me out of nowhere. And I've had actually doctors speak those words to my face, saying, when it was Dad, it was like, I could do surgery if this was a surgery thing. This is totally different. It's family. It's got a lot of emotion coming with it. It's got a lot of different people that have feelings about different aspects of aging, name of this show, etc. And I said, what is a general name for that person that you contact that isn't located at a hospital and isn't necessarily an attorney, isn't even like a financial advisor, just the person that knows the questions you should be asking and what you need the answers to. And what was your response? This is before we even started.
Sure. Yeah. So let me give a quick intro first. So we have
Yes,
some context here. So so my name's Amelia. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been an occupational therapist for a little over 14 years. I have worked in pretty much every level of healthcare with adults and older adults, inpatient, outpatient, home health, inpatient rehab, ICU, community-based home modifications, pretty much everywhere that older adults are. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work in those settings. And I will start by answering that question by saying that, of course, no one knows the answers to all of these questions, or almost no one does, right? Because our system is incredibly complex. That's been one of my main takeaways from working really in a deeply integrated way through all the different levels of our healthcare system and through our non-medical care systems as well, is this stuff is complicated. It is so siloed and fractured. It's actually really difficult for your average person who isn't deeply embedded in it to know the answers to these questions. And by the way, even if you are deeply embedded, I still learn new things all the time, every day, constantly learning about new resources and programs, and very excited to hear about the new resources and programs that the other guests here have on the show today, because I'm sure they're really amazing. But so to directly answer your question, one thing, there are people who sort of specialize this. They're called care managers. Sometimes people might call themselves care managers and they don't necessarily have a special certification to go along with that, but they're very, very experienced in what they're doing. There are people who have a certification called aging life care specialists. And those folks are often care managers. They're usually nurses, social workers, or often occupational therapists as well, who have spent a long time kind of navigating different aspects of our care system. And they can be really, really helpful to answer those kinds of questions and to help find resources in your area. The only trouble with this sometimes is that most of these folks, they have a crazy amount of expertise. They have to earn a living too. And so they have to charge money for that, right? And so that means that not everyone can necessarily access those services, for maybe there's not one in their area, or perhaps just financially it's not possible. So that's one of the problems that me and my co-founder at Senior AI are trying to solve right now, is trying to create a really simple way that anyone, no matter what their resources are, no matter what language they speak, they can call in, they can ask their questions and get directed to a verified resource in their area that can actually help them with that problem.
I am really glad to know that there is certification. I mean, that there's going to be some coverage there, because someone will turn to me and go, so what do you know about? And I would have to say my knowledge isn't deep, and I don't have this wonderful, file that I can flip through and immediately address that. Every once in a while I'll go, there was a person that spoke to that and they were on my show, and I'm going to look that up for you and send that to you. But I don't have that. That there are places that a person, usually an RN, social worker, occupational therapist, because occupational is giving you the opportunity to do what you used to do again after whatever it is that happened in your mind, which is part of your body, but in different ways. I am just really glad that you are working on that problem. And siloed is a word that I learned as I started to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm just like, what are they talking about? And it's like someone's inside this big metal bin, lots of someone's, and they're just banging and they're trying to pull things back to go, hey, we just have these great life hacks, these amazing innovations. We have patented inventions. We have training courses, you know. So as I developed this, a friend said, you know what, I'm just going to go through your book because I know that any moment now on both sides of our family, I am going to become a family caregiver for one of, you know, I reach up here, one of the people that were born before us, let alone for any other situations. And I just need to get ahead of that. And then they admitted that was a lot to go through. That was a lot of information to let hit you emotionally, thinking, what if all this is going on? Or please tell me that everything can't happen all at once. And they're hurdles. You know, Josephine, I have barely spoken with you, and I just want you to get a chance right now to be able to tell us. I like to say, if you want to complain about aging or even what's happening that ought to be better out in aging land, there might be another show for you to be on, but I get to have people on this particular talk show who are doing something about it, who care. And I want to make sure that, Amelia, that it was different. It was a care manager, not a case manager, which people are always going to hear about after maybe a stint in the hospital, but a care manager. So Josephine, I would love for you to get an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually up in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada.
Yay.
Yeah. And I have a consultancy here called Positivity Center. And we really focus on the positive aspects of aging and taking things like emotional intelligence and positive psychology interventions and weaving that, I call it weaving well-being into care. And over the last decade or so, similar to you, Amelia, just worked with a lot of different folks in a lot of different capacities. In the last 2 years, really dived into spending time with people living with dementia and their families and loved ones and people that they're supporting them. And that really just, I think that's where we connected, Christine, because we just share that passion there. And I could just say, I think all in all, yeah, I think my experience living or supporting people living with dementia has been that I get to feel life with them, which is where I resonate and where I sort of, that's my foundation with people, is sort of that emotional lens. We think that we think before we feel, but as you've probably heard from folks like Brene Brown and Jill Bolt Taylor, we feel and then we think. And it is so blatantly obvious when you're working with people living with dementia that it's emotions first, baby. And so I just really enjoy living emotionally with them, right? Because there's no more masking anymore. It's just all raw, and they need support. It's almost like when I see them needing support queuing to like brush your teeth or eat a meal, they need support equally the same for their emotions. They need cues into like, what emotion are you feeling? And like, let me help you process that depending on where they're at. So that's what I love doing with them. Yeah. And complaining, I just have to hit that note. One of the things that first got me started, so way back 10 years ago, I was spending time with my great auntie. She was living in assisted living, and she would often complain. But she kind of became my guinea pig in this whole positive psychology sphere, because I would let her complain. You know, I just gave her, you know, those 2, those 3, those 4, those 5, maybe more minutes sometimes. But what I loved after that was just validating what she might have been feeling, you know, where she was coming from. And the more she saw that I loved her as she was, that I validated what she was feeling. And I didn't go in trying to fix her problem, right? I can't change her table mate, right? Like she eats dinner with the person who drives her up the wall, and there was nothing I could do to really change that. But I could hear her, and I could just be with her as she was feeling the emotions she was feeling. And that started to transform every visit, and she complained less and less and less over time. So there's real power in emotion, and that's a long introduction, but sorry.
No,
That's
it
I think-
sounds like you made a wonderful exchange to the emotion of, here comes the person with whom I feel understood. I mean, she knew, I'm understood by this person. I don't have to say, you don't understand how hard it is on me. It's like, she does understand. I last week before, had the privilege of being in Dallas, Texas, and I stood at the outside of the table and listened to librarians. So this is the Texas Library Association conference that happens once a year. And there were at least two reasons that I did that. The librarian themselves was hit with something new recently that I think is more prevalent as we continue living. And it may be waves of grief, and it may be there's something new that just happened within the family, situations that affected them, that person. And the other is that librarians end up being first responders for people who are feeling isolated, either as a caregiver who's 24/7, like a family caregiver who's doing 24/7, and at least maybe they can go into the library and find something for their loved one to feel stimulated and engaged by. And then the other would be, one librarian said, the same person calls and asks different questions about different books. We just put it on speaker and keep talking to them while we get some things done, because we know they're just lonely. They just need so. And I was just like, that is a lot to take on, because here you are hearing a person and hearing their emotion and hearing their circumstance that you can only fix in that moment. And I so appreciate that I could just stand there and listen to them. So, and hear things. One of them showed me, evidence. They're like, I know one of the people that you've mentioned on your show, because I've got a card that I sent away for that is a card that you can pass to someone that says, it's like a business card, and it says, thank you for understanding that there is some neurodiversity going on with my person that I'm with, because in public it can look like something bad is happening, and you need to be able to say, it's okay, this is not a, and it comes printed with information going, contact here if you want to learn more about being a care person with a someone with dementia, etc. And I'm just like, oh, that is so great. I think I did not hear about that particular resource, something to pass to others. So Jason, I feel like, did you also have AI as part of your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, I do have AI.
I mean, you just kind of like, and AI. And I'm like, okay. And then we've got Amelia up there smiling big. So is this the first time you two are knowing of each other?
Yes.
All right, Jason, take the floor and let Amelia know why you two already have a love of what AI can do as a tool in practiced and caring hands for anything to do with people who have longevity.
Thank you, Kristen. And also, it's very nice to meet all of you guys here. And Bill, good to see you again. So Amelia, I think one thing that you do is really interesting, which is to provide this kind of like a care management, or Kristen asked about how do you call this kind of people? Like, what is the term? And actually, the thing that immediately coming to my mind, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, Kristen, if you're okay, before I introduce myself.
Please.
And it's like, I see like aging is a big life-changing stage, and I think most people go through their teenager, and I just happen to have two teenager boys, and it's just kind of like watching them and go through this life-changing stage, and I feel the person, is really needs to be termed as like life mentor. When we're going through the teenage, stage of our lives, we have our parents. They have gone through this. They tell us, this is what you need to do. This is what you shouldn't be doing. And how much we actually listen to them, that's a different, question. But when we're getting older, our parents, our aging parents, many of them, they're just not there. Nobody's telling us what they went through, what they learned, and what we should be going through ourselves. And I remember I constantly hear that somebody say, like, when an old person passed away, a library is burned. And I think, we need to have somebody who care about us, just like our parents care about us. And that's the kind of the caregiving, the care management, or whatever that we want to term, to exist for us. Because when people, like most people aging, there's just not that many people in that level, to that level of care that they care about us. But there are different types of professions out there. There are different kind of like a guidance and all those things people can read and all those things. Talking to Amelia, I mean, the AI is such a great thing because now you can collect all those information as well to get another layer of knowledge to get people much more ready to go through that process. We do use AI in our experience as well. So my name is Jason Wei, and I run a company called Discover Life. So what we do is, in a nutshell, we use Zoom to take people on real-time, on-location travel experiences. So when we first started this company, almost like 9 years ago, our sole focus was to bring a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and reignite the sense of curiosity amongst older adults. Because at that time, what we felt was when people getting old, and when people get to the stage, especially when people like start moving into the assisted living communities, for a lot of people, they feel like, okay, is this yet? All what I wanted to do, what I really, have on my bucket list, is that it? And we came in and tell them, no, this is just a new start. And there are many different ways through technologies you can do many kind of different kind of things. So at that time we decided to focus only on the seniors and the people with mobility disabilities. Over the years, we have expanded our service into large organizations, many libraries, just when you talk about that. And universities, we have a university taking our tours as a way to, especially for their students who is pursuing their education degrees, for them to see the world in a much bigger way. And most recently, we kind of like developed a line of products with Ancestry.com, so that the people now, the family, can actually go to visit their homelands. Anyway, so we have like different verticals of customer base that we serve, but our core, our passion is always in the older adults, just because like our line of tours specifically developed for the older adults. We actually bring in the brain exercise techniques as well. We train all of our tour guides for doing that. So that's kind of like what we do now. Now, why like AI is involved in that, because some of our tours can be large group of tours. We could easily have several hundred people in the tours, and but how do we make sure that the interaction is still there, the engagement is still there, the brain exercise is still there? And a lot of the people, like, believe it or not, like, they're so excited to get in the tour, but they may be like really shy just to even ask a question to our tour guide. So those are the tours that we want to make sure that people feel that they have a companionship when they're getting into those tours, and they can actually talk to somebody. And our AI came in to specifically tailor towards the people that they're joining our tours, but they're afraid of interact. So when people actually join the tour, our Adora, which is our AI concierge, will greet them, and they're saying, "Christine, welcome to Paris, France today. Have you been here before?" And if they say yes or no, like if there's a series of questions, get them engaged. Right. And we also ask them like what are some of the most interesting things that you want to learn from this destination, from this tour? And then Adora will tailor those information towards this person's. And we actually, from the host standpoint, we can also see what are the most interesting topics that people want to learn, and then we feed those back into our tour guide, so that during the tour, everybody is getting a piece of what they want to know and what they want to learn about the tours. So that's kind of like what we do, a brief introduction.
The tour guide is AI. Am I catching that right?
No, the tour guide is a real tour guide walking on the streets in real time. Yes.
Thank you. I was going back and forth between watching my husband, who talks to his phone and says, "We're traveling through this part of this state and we're seeing this black mountain. What are we seeing? Oh, in that part of the state. Da, 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 da." But this is a person.
This is a person.
Human.
Last week we were actually in Canada, Josephine, not far from you, to take a group of people to visit that national park. Wow. So that's what we do. AI is really just a complementary of the entire experience, almost like you give people another level of experience through the tour. So
kind of a flow chart of, have you been to Paris before? No. And then it goes to the next, oh my goodness. So really keeps people going. And it happened over and over again, TLA and elsewhere, Texas Library Association, that there's the person who feels a responsibility and a love and, is alongside a person who their mobility has changed, their ability to problem solve has changed, their medications have kind of fogged things up, whatever it is, and that both of them would be equally welcomed to be part of this. The tour guide isn't going to say, "Why are you asking that question? You asked that question already." It's just like, if it's a question, then it begs an answer. So that is so cool.
We welcome all the questions, and depending on the group size, we also have at least one host to monitor the tour and all those chat messages or questions, making sure that those questions are being answered.
Yay. Thank you. Bill, you got a running start, as in like you just hit the screen and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And boy, you smoothed right into it. But I can imagine that you have this, I don't know, you're going to describe why both you and Jason can speak to some things, and yet you've each got your own part that has really made a difference. And while you're describing, would you please tell me her name again? I believe it ends with Schreier.
Yes. So my name is Bill Yanowski. I'm one of the co-founders of Zinnia. My co-founder is Allison Schreier. Allison was a caregiver to her husband, Evan, who had frontotemporal dementia, and he was diagnosed as a young man at 47.
Right.
So Allison was thrust into this caregiving role, raising kids, taking care of her husband, and her response to it was to educate herself as much as possible as she could on dementia. And so she went through various courses and went on to teach both in long-term care and with primary care physicians about dementia and mental health. And Zinnia came out of the experience with her husband. She'd go to visit him in a community and see his wheelchair pushed up against the TV, watching something he never would have chosen to watch. And it was regular TV that moved at a pace designed for people with healthy brains. And so it was hard to follow, going too fast, visual, audio. Sometimes the topics weren't necessarily appropriate. And so that when someone with dementia is exposed to something like that, it can often lead to a variety of different reactions. It could be frustration or other behaviors or other things that make care harder. And it's also just not meeting that person where they are. And it's not dignified for who they are at this stage. So she got curious and she started creating videos that she could watch with her husband and use it to have moments of joy, connection, conversation, reminiscence, engagement. And she found that it worked really well. And these were like slow moving videos with pictures of their kids or their dogs or their vacations. But Allison wanted more because Evan liked to ski and to hike. And so like, where are those videos? And so, after doing some research into what was out there and pulling together a team, we built Zinnia. And Zinnia is an app you can download on tablets and connected TVs. And all of the content has been specifically crafted to be digestible by and engaging for people living with dementia. And so what this becomes is a tool for dementia family caregivers or professional caregivers to use with the people that they support. And so for the person with dementia, there are videos that can move at their pace, they can connect and enjoy. We have over 400 different topics. And so, a really key aspect of dementia is person-centered care. So knowing the person that you're caring for, knowing their interests, knowing their abilities, and finding things that match. So, a great example of that is we have a sewing video. And we heard from a senior living community recently where a family came for a visit. Their mom stayed in her room. She didn't want to get out of bed, didn't want to open her eyes. And so the member of the team at that community said, well, tell me something your mom likes. What's her hobbies? And they said, oh, she likes to sew. And so they pulled up a tablet with Zinnia and we have a sewing video. And the videos, the visuals are very vivid. We have like music in the background and sound effects. And they started the video, and within the first 2 seconds, there's a sound effect of a woman at a sewing machine snipping thread, a really distinct snip of the scissors. And they turn this on, snip, snip, the woman's eyes opened. What's that? Caught her interest. And then she started watching the visuals and she saw, our visual story of, sewing and looking at patterns and looking at fabrics and spools of thread and very colorful. And she perked up, she watched the video, and she and her family reminisced about the sewing projects that she'd make and the things that they do. And it took what could have been a really upsetting visit for the family, and it really made it positive and enjoyable. So that's the type of thing that an engaging video that Zinnia has can do. We also have videos that have been shown to be effective in reducing agitation, which is a common symptom of dementia. So again, if you know about that person and you know what they like, you can redirect them to that. There was a woman in a community who was frequently agitated and given an antipsychotic medication regularly. Yeah. And the team knew that wasn't great for her and they wanted to try to find something different. And they knew that she was a pediatric nurse for 30 years in her career. And so they thought, okay, next time she's agitated, let's try watching the baby's video. And they did just that. And within 2 to 3 minutes, the woman had calmed down. She was cooing at the screen, smiling, and they changed her care plan so that when she gets agitated, they show her Zinnia at first response as opposed to giving her the medication. So we are overwhelmed and very lucky to hear lots of different stories like that. And, we've done research for 2 years at the University of British Columbia and Vancouver General Hospital. So Josephine, we've got some stuff in Canada too. And it proved out that zinnia was engaging. Zinnia helped to reduce agitation. And it also, going to kind of some of the stuff that Amelia talked about with cueing behaviors, helped people to do things that their caregiver wanted them to do, be more receptive to it. So we've got a video called Let's Drink Water, a video called Let's Eat Breakfast, Let's Go to Bed, Let's Get Dressed. And so if people are resistant to doing those things, you can show them that video, which models and cues the behavior, and it helps people to be more open to doing that thing. And it's even better when used as a routine, because routine is important in care. So we actually just had an OT use Zinnia, our Let's Dance video. So she watched it with the person she was
Can I just interrupt? Dancing is like one of my favorite things to do with folks who have dementia, because you can't get people with dementia aren't going to sit and do an exercise program. People without dementia don't want to sit and do an exercise program. But people with dementia are really, they're not going to do. But what can we do? We can dance, and dance is such like a wonderful activity that connects us. It gets your whole body involved. It engages your mind. It's a really, like, as Josephine was saying, emotions are everything with folks with dementia. So like, it's a wonderful emotional experience, and music is something that we never forget. Like, it always hits us so deep down. I just love that. Okay, sorry, you can keep going now.
Yeah, no, that's great. We gotta get to our videos so you can use them. So they did the Let's Dance video. They talked about dancing. They got up and they danced, and the woman kept talking about all these different dances. The foxtrot, the waltz, the this, and it was just, it really helped. So we sometimes, like, we think that really, it's a tool for caregivers. You can use it in many different ways, as creatively as possible. We work with family caregivers at home, like Allison, and we work with senior living, and we work kind of all in between. So that's a little about what we do. And, we have a travel element that's very different than what Jason does, but, we're focused on, the people with dementia who experience the world differently. And so, but they can still kind of have wonder and awe about places that they've been or places that they've wanted to go. We had a caregiver tell me that he watches the Hawaii video with his dad, and suddenly his dad started telling him stories about when he was in the Navy that he had never heard. But seeing the Hawaii video helped to just bring about that reminiscence in those stories.
I love that. Any or all of you familiar with the phrase non-pharma?
Yep.
I was going to ask Bill, how does that come up regularly? That, so this can be prescribed. It's put into the care plan, and we don't have to wonder if something's being swallowed or is interacting with something else, or was it recorded correctly so we're not over medicating? Because if they want to watch it 3 times in a row, it's not going to have adverse effects, and you're not causing, first do no harm. So anybody who wants to speak to anything, you just go with it. I already joked that I can just go and get some more laundry done, because you all can just take over.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Well, we obviously, I gave you the example of coming on, choosing to change the care plan. We are a non-pharmacological intervention, and we think that's very important. And we're actually doing a study right now in a couple communities in Canada where we're baselining the usage of pharmacological medications, ER visits, and resident aggression towards staff. And then we put Zinnia into the community for 3 months. And then we're hopefully soon getting data on what the baseline is now after Zinnia has been there. Has it been able to calm and add peacefulness to the community? And have we seen those numbers go down? So very hopeful that that's what we see. Anecdotally, we're told that all the time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's so important for folks to be thinking about, and I think, Josephine, like, I'm sure you are going to take this and run with it too. Successfully working with someone or caring for someone with dementia is all about experience and emotional management. And one of my pet peeves is actually when folks with dementia are described as having like behavioral problems.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal. These are natural human reactions and natural human emotions that are perfectly normal for the experience that that person is having. And we can't solve the dementia, unfortunately. We can't go and fix those things, but we can alter the experience that that person is having. And when we do the best that we can to ensure that someone is having a positive experience from moment to moment, then of course, then we're not seeing things like agitation and aggression and all of these, quote unquote, like behavioral problems that we see, because what we're doing is we are actually treating the underlying human needs of that person, which are to feel human connection, to be engaged in meaningful activity, and to have those basic needs met. And when we do those things, like it seems like magic, but it's not really magic that those things go away. It's just natural. The same way any of us would react to that, right?
Yeah. That's so funny you say that, because there used to be this case manager that would come into the community and she would call me the magician. Mm-hmm. So I was basically like your in-person Zinnia. That's what I did. Yeah. And that's precisely what we experienced, was reduction in aggression, because we all know that we need to feel more positive emotions than negative ones. And if you are just sitting on a couch all day long with nothing to do, like what even you, all of us, what would we be like? Would we be fun to be around? We would totally go insane, and you'd see the roaring. Right? So to me, it's just like going back down to like the future of care is human to me. Like, what does it mean to be a human being? How do we create joyful moments, meaningful moments, moments of connection? And when you do that, it changes how they experience their moment, but it also ripples into how they experience other moments in their day. And so, yeah, I totally concur with, I love it, what all of you are doing. Yeah.
And don't you find, Josephine, that like, it's also so rewarding for you as the person who is there sharing that moment? It's not just like, it goes both ways, right? It's the most wonderful thing to just really be present there with someone in that moment. And it's such a beautiful opportunity to have. And we can actually find that when we're working with or caring for people with dementia, but we have to be willing to like be present and be there with them.
Yeah.
One thing that when Bill talked about the travel experience, I have to tell you guys a story. When we first started the business 8 years ago, and that's what I'm talking about, and we did a test, and that was actually our first test. It was like, we just basically talked to one of the long-term care communities that's close to my house, and we just saying like, hey, we're going to give you a free tour, and I just want to get some of your feedback on, what you like or don't like about the experience. Okay. And happened to be my co-founder, she has a friend who works for Disney. So that was our very first tour, was on the main street of Disney World. And it was supposed to be, for those of you guys who have been there, like that little street, probably 15 minutes you can walk through, right? Ended up, we spent almost 1.5 hours there. Every step that we walked, the people in the residents stopped us and say, can you just stop there? Do you see that bench over there? 40 years ago, our family sat there, and I wanted to go over there. I wanted to see that. And do you see this mailbox? My daughter, it was her first postcard. She stick into the mail slot, and you start to see some people start to almost like a cry. And one thing that is very, very emotional for us was, when we talk about dementia, one of the residents from the dementia, the memory care unit was there, and she has like during the tour, she had like basically pretty steady, doesn't have any emotion. But when we get to one of the places, I forgot where that was, and she started to cry, and then she keep saying about Mickey. And that's when I get all the memories come back. And so, I mean, you think about the positive things that can stimulate somebody's memories, and then Amelia, to your point, and also Josephine, to have the people around them so that they can actually communicate too. That is very powerful. And our tours right now, for example, that was actually one of the reasons. Like our tours right now, we actually focus on the interests. Like we would have like the 10 best. Let's all go to visit the 10 best beaches in the world, 10 best gardens in the world, 10 best foodie markets in the world. Just because people have different interests, right? And not only for the people who haven't been there to develop a new interest, but also for the people who already have an interest to regain their memory back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really powerful, like just listening to all of you guys to talk about the different product and the different services and how they're benefiting the people with dementia. And I feel like dementia is something can be delayed, and there are a lot of different ways can contribute to that.
Jason, I just love how you're talking about Disneyland, because when I was working in community, I was working in a locked unit, and the tendency was to take people out of the unit to go do things that were in the other parts of the community. And I was very much opposed to that because I felt like it was sending this silent message that was saying life's better out there, right? Instead of life can be great in here. And so one of, I guess you could say, my personal missions was almost to create a Disneyland experience, like every day, whenever possible, like in that spot, in real time, in their environment, to the best of mine and our ability. And the other thing that I really noticed in doing that with folks was that depending on where they were cognitively and both physically, I couldn't be the person for 39 of them. Like it just doesn't work that way. I'm only one person, but what I could do was make connections with the ones that still could then further deepen connections with other people. And so I kind of, you could say, had my core, but they were the ones that would initiate connection and conversation and engagement with other folks. And so in that regard, I was just sort of like a seed that I tried to water to grow in myself and then in others so that they could then do the same for the other people. And that was a magical thing for me too, to see there's still so much capacity. And I think we sometimes forget that. Like they know what love is, and they know how to receive it, and they know how to give it. And I think that's, yeah.
You're so right. Like during our tours, we actually invite the family members to travel alongside with the person, and it's just like a conversation starter for a lot of people, right? Not just during the tour they can talk to each other, but also after the tour there are a lot of things they can talk, especially when we're talking about the common interest tours or even some of the heritage tours. You see like the multi.
Jason, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you for a moment.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
I tried muting myself. I'm going, is there something in here?
No, I think it's Mike. So just let you know, like my house is all covered up right now because they're replacing me. So sorry about that. I'm gonna.
I was like, is there somebody else lurking off screen that's able to?
They didn't
as
tell
long
me,
as I know what's going on, it kind of helps. Since I've interrupted you very rudely, I would like to thank whoever it is that popped up as LinkedIn user. I'm going to read through this really fast. The discussion about behavioral issues is spot on. Stringing together meaningful moments brings joy and purpose to the human experience. That's what every person, dementia or not, strives for. So often there's a negative experience because senior living caregiver does not have enough knowledge of the person to connect and engage on a personal level. Who is this person, and are you going to be on my show, or have you already?
Right.
Would love more info about Zinnia for the private caregiver or community options if this could be shared. So Jason, I am so sorry that I stopped you midstream.
No worries.
I also have to say, we're at a point where we're going to be closing down before the end of the hour. My hubby producer, D. Scott Smith, motivational listener, is zooming in, probably really zoom, into another meeting. And so I want each of you to have the opportunity to do exactly this. Make sure that somebody who's listening in maybe hasn't had a chance to see the links at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to just start with Bill and then go to Josephine, then Amelia. We'll end with you, Jason, to just make sure that people will know your links, and we can see the links that you have. You can spell them out. You can tell them it's center spelled the correct way, R-E. Josephine, when it's your turn, etc. You get to just say your stuff. So somebody listening, because they're caregiving right now, or they're driving right now, and they shouldn't be looking at this, will get half decent chance of being able to get a hold of you. So go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. And thanks to that user for your interest. You can find Zinnia at www.zinniatv.com. You can also contact me directly at bill@zinniatv.com. And we can talk about subscriptions for family caregivers or communities or everywhere in between. That's how to contact me. Just real quick, thank you to everyone who participated in this. This was great. And it was so wonderful to have an upbeat, positive conversation about dementia and aging, because so much of the narrative is negative. We talked about magic and Disney and everything. And that's really what it's all about. So I'm pleasure to be here with all of you. You're doing great work, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Yay.
Yeah, I second those sentiments as well, Bill. Awesome. My link is to some tools that we've actually created over the past bit for caregivers specifically. So you can find them at positivitycenterre.com/tools. And they are 4 tools. There's a video and a downloadable workbook. They're all free. And one's on emotional nourishment, one's on strengths, one's on meaning, and one is on connection. So if you're looking to experience a little bit more of that with your person you're supporting, then check those out.
I champion workbooks, not just because I was a school teacher, but because a person can turn the page and go, wow, I've already got a clue on this. I've already seen it done right. I've already researched that. Boy, you know what? Get stickers or give yourself a reward to go and do or eat or interact with someone because you've done your workbook. So that's my little for workbooks. You get to see what you're already doing right and what you're already on top of. Plus, you get to find out, I need to know something like that so that I kind of have a handle on what's going on in the future. Glad I heard about it ahead of time. Thank you, Amelia.
Yeah, so first, can I just say thank you so much for having me on, but also for putting together this really great group of folks today who I did not know before, but I'm so pleased to have met you all now. And I hope this isn't the last time that our paths crossed. So if anyone is interested in learning about how Senior AI is going to be connecting folks from all walks of life, in a really simple way, from the problems they have to the solutions that they need in their local communities, the best thing that you can do is visit seniorai.app. So that's seniorai.app, and you can join the waitlist. We are getting ready to launch next month in May. So you will be actively able to, we will actively notify anyone who's on that sign up list that they are able to call into our system, ask any questions that they want, and get the answers that they need. So again, if you're interested in that, the best thing to do would be to sign up for the waitlist at seniorai.app. And I hope everyone is having a really good day also.
Wonderful. And Jason, I didn't let you tell us, I didn't let you finish. Do you have a tent over your house? Do you have like scaffolding up against your house? I love construction. You cannot believe how much I love construction. I used to walk through construction sites before they started putting things out saying, no, you can't trespass here, because that was like the 80s. And I'm just tromping around going, well, I think I know where they're going to put the closet. Go ahead.
I really apologize if the noise is continuing. Actually, it's like I haven't been outside. I know like all of my house is covered up at this moment. So discover.live, L-I-V-E.
This is real. This is live.
Unbelievable. I just told them to start, and I didn't realize they're actually starting today.
Go ahead.
So just very quickly, we have an opportunity to work with a funding organization to actually allow the Canadian-based senior living communities to use our service for up to 6 months for free. So I would really, interested people like just reach out to us. You can, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or just get onto our website. So I'm gonna mute myself. I don't want to distract. Thank you so much. It's always wonderful to be surrounded by a group of people so passionate about the aging care.
Yay. I also want to champion, Bill, you talked about gathering data to see the difference that happens without and with. That's been a discussion with the gal that I'm on the ground, I'm elbow to elbow with other volunteers, or I'm on my own and making sure that things are happening right for people who have one challenge in their life that shouldn't cut them out of everything else. I'm just going to say, I don't know why, but about a month ago, I thought solitary confinement. That's what they did to people who've done terrible crimes. And if your body has put you into solitary confinement, if your mind has done that, if uninformed caregiving has you shoved up against a TV that's got too many things flashing by, if you're confined because of financial constraints, etc., why treat a person the way that someone would be treated who has done something wrong? And so I'm really glad that everybody's got their can openers and they're ripping open silos full of good information and putting it out there. Like Jason just said, reaching up to Canada, and then Canada's, and Josephine's reaching down to the US with things that I just talked to a lady the other day, and she's an occupational therapist, and she said, I found a gap that nobody was addressing in the case management to care management spot. And so that's what I do on my own, but I don't maybe get enough clients yet. So I'm also working, and she was sitting in a car with a wrap around it for what it is she does. I just stopped because, I hand them my card and go, this is what I'm about. Is there somebody who wants to come on my show right here in Waco, Texas? And then she told me about hers, and and you, not just your boss with the car with the wrap around it, but just you found a gap, you saw the gap, and then you mapped the gap, and then you built the bridge. And, just more getting this information out there. We're at the end. Yay, Josephine, Amelia, Bill, Jay. I am so glad we had all of this time, and that you have all of each other, and that somebody, there's always lurkers, but that person spoke specifically. Oh, the LinkedIn user said, thank you. Yay. Oh, and someone else, Angela N. Maloney, says, thank you. You're welcome, Angela. And LinkedIn user, I know you'll reveal yourself at some point, probably on my email or something. But I got to let you guys go and let my husband move on to what he's doing. Goodbye. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.